75% of you do not spend time to develop the most important skill for your career, and that needs to be fixed.
The most important skill?
Yes.
We spend all of the time improving skills we need for our career.
Exactly. So in fact, let me ask this question, right? In your career, what are the 3 most important sources of power or influence?
Power or influence? One comes to mind, which is the amount of skill you have.
Yes.
That is the most obvious one.
Right.
The greater skill you have, the more power you have in your career.
Correct.
The second is seniority, experience.
Your title.
Title. Okay,
right?
Fine.
Right. And the third one is your relationships you have built up, the connections.
Oh.
Right? In fact, if you really ask anybody very senior, anybody who's achieved a lot in their life, to give a breakup, very likely they'll say that your actual technical skills or knowledge or experience counts for about 20%, and your position or your title or seniority counts for another 20%. But most of it, maybe 70%, is your connections, is your network, is your relationships. Okay?
No.
I used 3 different words because everybody has slightly different reaction to these 3 words, right? But they're all roughly the same thing.
Okay.
It is your ability to influence people because you know them, they know you, you trust them, they trust you, right?
Okay.
That network, that connections is the most important thing. Today's episode, I want to primarily talk about convincing you that this is important. You need to work on this. And a lot of you, like me, might have the impression that this is somehow shady, sleazy thing to do.
It does sound very...
Because I remember in Hindi movies, like from my time, 40 years ago, the hero used to pass BA and then go out looking for a job, and he would not get the job because he didn't have the right connections.
Sifarish, they used to call it Sifarish.
Correct. And then somebody else with connections would get the job, right?
Yeah.
And of course, that was always shown to point out, how horrible the world is. And I have news for you, right? We don't talk about it, but really the world still works like that.
I was afraid you were going to say that, Naveen. Right. I was afraid you were going to say that.
We still make a big deal about these new modern industries and software industry, and it is very meritocratic and so on. But even today, right, if you analyze a company's hiring, you will notice that the most important source of hiring, the one with like 50-60% chance of success, is employee referrals, right? If you are referred into the company by somebody who already works there, you have a very high chance of being hired. The corresponding number for applying, through a recruiter or something is probably closer to 2%, 3%. And the corresponding number for, getting hired through Naukri is, you have to look with a microscope.
Or Monster or Shine. We don't want to specifically target Naukri here. But these, right? Naveen should definitely know because he does that for a living very honestly. Right. And secondly, I can tell you from my experience in media that this is true. A lot of positions get hired on the basis of employee referrals. At least that's true in terms of media. Right. I'm not sure how it works in other industries, but I'm guessing it must be the same.
I'm not talking just about jobs and getting new jobs and so on, right? Even within a company or say outside, if you're working for some activity or some initiative or you're in the government, anywhere, getting things done involves knowing people, going and talking to them, having a working relationship with them, right? That gets things done far better than you being really good at your job. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of, for example, engineers, the way our schooling system works is that we grow up thinking that, I really need to know this technically. I need to know this well inside out. And then that's it. That's good enough for success. And the answer is that it's good enough for mediocre success until a certain level. But to rise beyond that, you do need to get better at networking.
Yes, and you touched upon exactly this point in one of the previous episodes that we did for specifically it was for 12th standard students, but he did mention that connecting with your peers, connecting with your fellow students will give you a greater chance of doing better in future life, and by that he essentially meant networking.
Right. We said earlier that your expertise and experience or your title are not that important. I mean, a lot of people, especially early in their career, are under this mistaken impression that, you have a title, you are the boss, and that's it. Everybody has to listen to you. Correct. Anybody who has been the boss knows that this is not how the world works, right? If your employees don't respect you, right? Or if you don't have a good working relationship with your employees, getting anything done is extremely hard, right? Yeah. Whereas if you have a good relationship with your employees, you can get far more done.
Yeah.
And that is just the people who are reporting to you. But you have to do a lot of work in adjacent organizations, right? People who are not directly reporting to you. Either they are reporting to someone else or they are your peer in
different teams, different departments, could be anything.
And being able to go and convince them of things is important, right? That's how you get things done.
That's true. But you know what bothers me about networking a lot of the times is that networking skirts so close to nepotism that sometimes it is very difficult to distinguish between the two. And the initial example that you gave, giving where the hero doesn't land a job, keeps seeing these no vacancy signs everywhere, and then suddenly somebody with Sifarish gets in. That somebody with Sifarish is typically the chacha, the bhatija or bhanja or whatever of the owner.
Yeah.
So that's nepotism.
Yeah, sure. See, what they show in the movies is unnecessarily extreme. Okay. In the real world, this is what happens, right?
Naveen telling me about movies, this is completely role reversal and how.
Yeah. In the real world, imagine, right? You have to hire a person, okay? Now, I understand the software industry. I will take an example of the software industry.
Sure.
To get one person, I have to start with 100 resumes. Okay. And then out of that, at least 40 of them will actually match all the keywords that are there in my job description, JD, right? The job that description saying that you should know this, you should know this, you have to have this degree. 40 of those will match.
Correct.
Right? And then bringing that 40 down to 1 or 2 people is a huge effort. Okay, especially because so many people lie on their resumes. So many people have a degree, but it is from a college that was so bad that they really don't know anything that they were supposed to have learnt in 4 years. Right? Now, so from these 100, I have to pick one person who is going to work out as a really good employee, right? On the other hand, Shrikant, who I have known for 20 years, right? And who says, I know this person and he's really good, right? I am not going to hire this person just because Shrikant recommended. I am going to interview this person. But because I know Shrikant for a long time, I know Shrikant won't lie to me outright, right? So suddenly my chances of interviewing this person are extremely high. In fact, almost 100% because I won't want to say no to Shrikant. And my chance of starting the interview on a favorable note are also higher because Shrikant has given me a reason to believe that this person is good and will probably work out, right? Because again, I know given the kind of relationship Shrikant and I have, if that person wasn't actually good enough, Shrikant would have found some way of not recommending that person to me, right? And once in a while, I do get an acquaintance who recommends somebody who was bad.
Correct.
But over time, what happens is that I stop listening to that person's recommendations. That's what my networking is doing for me, right? I build up in my head a model of every person I know, knowing which person's recommendations for which kind of stuff are reliable and which ones are not reliable, right? So that is why it works. And this is actually a good thing, right? Because those 100 random people who have applied through a recruiter and all that, right? You have no idea which ones of them are sincere, which ones of them are faking, which ones of them think they're good, but they are not good, right? It's just too much work.
I I completely get where you're coming from, and I do agree that if someone is coming to you through me, then they have the added responsibility of making me look good.
Yeah.
So I will of course make sure that I vet that person before sending them to you.
Exactly.
So your job is half done there right away.
Yeah.
But here's my problem. My problem is if I send someone to you and you happen to hire that person, then somebody who is probably a good enough or better candidate, maybe who has applied through a resume, might not.
Yeah, that's how the world works. I mean, tough, right? Because I can guarantee you that any person, anybody hires in India, right? There is somebody sitting in Cambodia who's better than that. And are you going to go there and find that person in Cambodia? No, there's a trade-off between how much effort you can and should put into something. Right?
Yeah, but then
it would be nice if we lived in a world where there was like a one button click saying that who's the most ideal person for this job in the whole world, and it would find and bring that person here. We do not live in that world.
App idea right there. We are going to take 2% of the royalties if you make an app on that.
No. Okay.
Why not?
We need to live
Fine, we are giving it away for free.
This world, right? We need to be practical. Some things are impractical. Right? Okay, let me say this. Right? You want fair. Right? You can't define fair. Researchers have tried. There are 18 definitions of fair and they're incompatible with each other. You cannot be fair. You can't even define fair.
What I'm hearing from you now is that networking is important, skills are not important.
No, skills are important. Okay. But they will not take you all the way. So see, skill and networking are both needed. Right?
Okay.
Let's say skill is that you can play like heavenly piano. Okay. Networking is the venue where you're playing it, right? There is research showing that a world-class pianist playing in like a subway station in the US, and people walked past without paying any attention. Yeah. And when the same person plays at Carnegie Hall, people are paying thousands of dollars per person to listen, right?
And there are videos of this on
you can't tell me
YouTube. Yeah.
I mean, getting into Carnegie Hall without skills is going to be a huge flop. Right? But the reverse is also true. Having skills and playing at New York subway station doesn't help either.
What an example. Yeah, that is true. So skills are needed and network is needed to make those skills shine.
So I'll tell you one problem I had with networking, right? It always struck me as something dirty. I grew up being told that, the really good people don't have to go out selling themselves, right? They don't have to show off.
Yeah.
Right? As in, if you are really good, you don't have to show off.
Geriatric millennials right here represent.
I always thought of networking as you go walk up to people and then you talk about, oh, I am such a cool person and I am so awesome and so on.
Yeah.
And which is extremely like a sleazy salesperson, right?
Yeah.
Most networking doesn't have to be like that, which is why I keep using 2 or 3 different words. I say building relationships, right? You get to know a person, that person gets to know you, and networking has happened, right? So you don't have to talk about how great you are.
Okay, 2 things. So one, you are saying that I don't have to randomly message people on LinkedIn saying, listen, I am a great audio producer.
I will actually go and say the following, right? LinkedIn is the sleazy kind of networking which I don't like, and places like Twitter and Instagram are the kind of relationship building which result in networking as a side effect, which I actually like.
You know what? I'm going to get him to do a series of things on how to network and how not to network.
We will do an entire episode on that.
Yes.
Let's do that. But before going into how to network, I want to spend this entire episode convincing you that you should network and it's not a dirty thing.
And that is one of the questions that I have.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like a bridge question to the other one.
Yeah.
If I want to network or if I want to ask someone for a job, I will be comfortable asking friends. I'll be comfortable asking family. How do I go up to a random person and ask them, please give me a job?
Yeah. So before that, okay, I want to tell you that if you want a job, your friends and family are going to be useless. Okay?
They're good people, yeah. Don't say that.
See, the problem is that whatever job opportunities they are aware of, very likely you are also aware of those because you hang out with the same people.
That's
right?
true.
The number of cases in which close friends or family will help you is tiny. Whereas, and again, this is actual research has been conducted on this, right?
Okay.
The best opportunities come from people you just know a little bit, acquaintances. Okay.
Second degree connections on LinkedIn.
So this is called, there is an entire paper and research on this called the power of weak links.
Weak links.
Right. The most helpful parts of your network are the weak links, right? The people who know about you, maybe you're meeting them once in 6 months or once a year or something like that, right? Not your close friends that you're hanging out with every week.
So wait, these people are people who have to know about you or know you?
A little of both.
Okay.
Right? I mean, ideally, they want to know you. You should have actually met them or had conversations with them. But, like I said, once in 6 months is good enough. Once a year is good enough, right? They have they know you, they know what you do, and they have a generally favorable impression of you.
So Pratik is going to give me my next job.
Absolutely, very likely, right? Not very likely. The point is that
there is a possibility.
Okay. If you've been paying attention in our episodes, can you tell me how many close friends, family you are likely to have?
Dunbar number. Episode reference, please go check.
5. You're going to have really close 5 people.
Yes.
And maybe 15 people who are,
nearby.
Nearby. But if you look at people you know reasonably well, that's around 150.
Yes.
And if you go to acquaintances, right?
Much
now
bigger.
we are talking about 500 to 1500.
Correct.
Okay. So just think of the fan out. The number of opportunities known by your 5 closest friends or your 15 good friends, compare that to the number of opportunities available to your 1500 acquaintances. Right? So it's not that Pratik will find you a job. There are 1500 Pratiks out there and one of them will help you find a job.
I know you're just helping him get out of this sticky situation now, but I was just giving Pratik's name as an example,
but
and
yes.
it does work.
Right.
So what I hear you say is keep in touch with all of these weak links and keep networking with them.
And we haven't come to how. That's going to be a different episode, right? Because I mean, if me from 20 years ago had heard this advice, I would be freezing. It's like, are you mad sending messages to these people I only vaguely know? Right? I would be terrified, right? I am still terrified. If you ask me to send a message to someone that last I contacted was 6 months ago, I would not do it, right? So there are techniques, we will come to that. But first, I still want to harp on the fact that you need to start thinking of networking as relationship building, right?
Okay.
Just be good acquaintances with people.
This doesn't mean I go and start messaging people and start networking immediately.
No. Don't go out and start bothering people, right? There are ways in which you do it where you are, just being
So no
you.
networking for the sake of networking.
Absolutely not. Networking should happen as a side effect.
Side effect?
Yes. As in you are doing something else and networking happens.
Like I'm making episodes with Naveen for FutureIQ and networking happens. I get to know Pratik.
That's just 2 people, right? You want to be involved in activities where you just end up knowing 20 people as part of that activity.
Okay,
right?
I'll make a mental note of asking him in the next episode where we speak about how to do networking.
Yeah, but get involved in activities, get involved in initiatives, do things in your company.
From whatever you've said so far, it seems to be like networking is going to get my foot in the door.
Yes.
But will it get my foot in any door? As in, suppose there is a job that's slightly beyond my level of competence.
So think of networking.
I'm thinking of the Peter principle, like where you rise to the highest level of incompetence. That.
Like I said, think of networking as an amplifier.
Okay.
Right? What is an amplifier? There is a sound, right? Audio that is coming in, and an amplifier makes it louder. Right?
Yes.
If you feed noise to an amplifier, you will just get loud noise on the other side. If you feed silence to it, you will just get loud silence on the other side, right? An amplifier only amplifies what is there, right? It's same, it's like multiply by 100, right? So if you have level of skill is 10, networking will make it 100, right? If you have 0 skill, networking is going to make it 0. Okay, 0 into 100 is still 0. So networking doesn't create something out of nothing. Okay, networking, what you have makes it more visible to the world.
Okay, one final thing that comes to mind. I'm almost convinced about what you said about networking, but one thing that I have to bring up here is it seems to be that networking can only happen with a certain privilege, or there is a certain privilege that is associated with.
Okay, so I think what you are saying is that for privileged people it is easy to say networking.
Yeah.
Right? Yes, the answer is you're right. Okay. Everything that you have been complaining about during this episode, and I also had problems with earlier, is that networking makes the whole world into like an old boys club where only the privileged people continue to have privileges, and this is used as a way of keeping out the others, right? I wish we lived in a world where this was not true, but that is not the world we live in. The best we can do is the following. Underprivileged people, so for example, women find it more difficult to network. Say in India, Dalits will find it more difficult, right? It's always going to be a problem. One is that in spite of that, their chances do increase with networking. In fact, in some sense, they need to be even better at the networking. Second is that people who are in power, right, who are privileged, should go out of their way to make it easy to give networking opportunities. I'll give just one simple example, right?
Okay.
A lot of networking happens like on Friday evening over drinks, right? This is two kinds of problems here, right? There's a whole bunch of people who don't drink and who are very uncomfortable where alcohol is being consumed.
True.
And suddenly a lot of their networking opportunities go down.
Correct.
Women have extra duties at home.
Correct.
Evening is a bad time for them.
Correct.
And so if you set up these bonding sessions on evenings, it becomes difficult for women, right? So if you are in a position of influence, try to go out of your way to give networking opportunities for others.
Note to HR.
Note to HR. No, I don't think HR can do it. It has to be the actual people with power who should be doing this, right?
Yeah, I know.
But ideally, I would also try to do an entire episode on networking tips for women with a woman who's done that successfully, and similarly for say SC/ST Dalit people with somebody who has actually successfully done it.
Let's actually try and set that episode up. That is going to be that's going to be a very interesting episode. We'll in fact try and get some questions from you for those guests of ours, so we can have like a more wholesome and more well-rounded conversation about it.
So I think this episode has been like, I think there's a lot of detail in this that you can dig into, right? The primary purpose of this episode was just to get you interested enough in this topic,
correct,
which you probably consider distasteful until today, but for you to start looking into, right? So there are a lot of links that we are putting up. Take a look, right? There is one overview article I have written. Then you can find information about the power of weak links. You can find information or Twitter threads about why relationships are more important than your title and your role at a company. You can find information about the different kinds
relationships with co-workers in the strictly professional sense. Want to clarify that again.
So the different types of power in an organization and the interplay between them and the relative importance. So all of that is there in the links. Please take a look.
Do check it out, and we will come back with an episode on how to network. But for now, Shrikant, Naveen, this is FutureIQ.
Thank you. Thank you for watching till the end. If you like this episode, check out these others. You might like them also. And please share with your friends. I'm sure they will also like these. Thank you.